When your ex is in a relationship and reaches out, here's how to handle this. Hello there, I'm Coach Abby. Thank you for joining me once again on Love Advice TV. Love Advice TV is a channel that has been created uniquely for you to assist you in navigating through any relationship challenge. Now, today's subject might be one of the most confusing and emotionally charged situations you'll probably ever face. Your ex is with someone new, yet they reach out to you. What do you do? Specifically, when you still have that glitter of hope that you can once again become a partner. Initially, what can I say? Your emotions spin wildly. There's excitement, all this internal questioning. Does this mean they still love me? Then the fear comes in. Oh my God, I'm just a backup plan. They're probably breaking up and they just want me as a backup plan. And then the confusion. What do I say? How should I respond? Should I ignore them? Interesting enough, handled poorly, this moment can really destroy any chances of any type of positive communication. So the point is this. Am I trying to convince anyone to steal someone's husband or girlfriend or somebody from some? Absolutely not. But sometimes we've been in a long relationship and we break up and that person goes into rebound mode and we still have that inner hunger for them to come back to us. And once again, this is when we decide, should we entertain this idea? But the purpose of this video is how to handle this situation wisely. Because if we handle it wisely, it may become one of the most powerful openings for, yes, that reconciliation. And that's exactly what I'm going to walk you through today. So before we talk about what to do, we must understand why it happens. Because clarity gives you power. So why do they reach out? Even though there was someone else, they're married to someone else, they're engaged, they're whatever. I mean, we all know what the situation might be. The most common reasons is simply residual feelings. Their love just doesn't vanish overnight. Even with someone new, part of them is still connected to you. We just don't immediately, forget about that person. Then we have a comparison effect. So they may notice something missing with their new partner. Perhaps it was the laughter, great sex, I don't know, depth. And instinctively, they reach back towards you. They also reach back many times to test the waters. Sometimes they just want to know if the door is still open, if you're receptive to them. Also, we've got guilt. They dumped you just like that. And they reach out to relieve that guilt. There's nostalgia. They all of a sudden have that memory of you where you guys were one, where you were so delicious together, where, that piece of that puzzle fitted in perfectly. And, they just feel compelled to relive it. And yes, unmet needs. Maybe their new relationship isn't fulfilling them emotionally. So they turn to one that once did. And guess who that one is? You. So here's the key if they're reaching out and you're still on their mind, obviously. So that's why they're reaching out. But it also signals an opportunity that must be handled with precision. Here is where most people sabotage themselves, and they do, because we're letting all of these emotions of what to do, the could have, would have, should have, everything is all scattered everywhere. And what that does, it unleashes, just emotional chaos. And I always go back to that, to be able to have that delay pause of 5 minutes, no matter what happens in your life. When you feel that everything is rumination and craziness, just pause. What you want to do is not to rush into responding. Do not over pursue by responding immediately and responding with desperate enthusiasm. Oh my gosh, I thought you'd never reach out. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to see you or hear from you. None of that. That makes you look needy. And you don't want that. Another thing that I always advise is when they do reach out, be lighthearted. You can be in your feminine or masculine energy. There's no problem with that. But one thing's for sure, do not criticize the new partner. Because you see, attacking them only pushes your ex to defend that relationship. You don't want to do that. And you also don't want to agree to meet them immediately. And why is that? The way I look at it, you don't want to overinvest too fast. You make it seem like, you've been on that waiting room and they finally came in and called your name. And it really does weaken your position. You have to think of it like this. When your ex reaches out, they are cracking that door open. But if you push too hard, that door will slam shut again. You have to remain calm and curious. But you need to remind yourself that that door needs to stay open. No more and no less. So what it means is you navigate it with lightheartedness. You keep it very, very on the surface. You do not touch about, well, you left me for her and what she dumped you or she did. None of that. You listen, if anything, more than talk or more than respond. If you're not sure whether your natural reactions are helping or hurting right now, you just received that text. You just received, a message of some sorts, and you haven't responded, and you're watching this video, maybe it's a time that you take the free assessment questionnaire below. And the reason I suggest that, because I can sit here and talk to you, but the free questionnaire below allows you to focus within yourself. It'll show you exactly where you stand and what approach is safest in your unique case. You need to be able to define that within yourself. There's so much power to clarity as to where you stand. So what do you actually do? I strongly suggest what I refer to as the strategy of the wise. And what is that? Discussed it initially. You pause and breathe. I'm pausing and breathing all the time, but I think it's so important. And I find that it helps me minimize any mistakes that could have come across if I would have replied immediately. And I'm not talking on an emotional level with a lover or a partner. It could be with with any person that you're dealing with in your life, because we have many hats that we wear. So what you do is you first let your emotions settle. Remind yourself that this is an opportunity, not a guarantee. What you need to do is also mirror their tone. If their message is casual, keep it casual. If they're emotional, meet it with some type of warmth. Just don't overexpose yourself. What I mean by that, don't immediately say, I'm single, I'm not dating anyone, or I am dating someone, or how dare you, or why would you do? Don't assume that they're reaching out to rekindle. They might just be curious. That's it. They're testing their waters. Subtly reflect your growth. And I mean that the main word here is subtly. You don't want to do it bragging. You don't want your words or tone to show that, oh my gosh, I'm so much happier and I'm so much calmer and I'm such great. No, just be happier. Just be calmer. Just demonstrate you're stronger emotionally. Even a short response can carry this energy. You don't have to, spin it out of control. certainly stay out of the triangle. And when I mentioned about not criticizing the new partner, you know, I reiterate that. What you need to do is you need to let your energy and presence do the comparison naturally. You win by being elevated, not by competing. And you need to maintain yourself conscious of the fact that you're playing the long game. And what is the long game? This isn't about stealing them back. You don't want to do that. And never in one conversation. It's about planting seeds of doubt, perhaps, and their new relationship and seeds of attraction towards you. And how do we do something like that? First and foremost, like I said, do not badmouth their exes or what have you, but you can mention great things about you, things that you're doing, because what you're doing is you're planting the seeds of attraction towards you. You really don't want to over elaborate or underscore anything that has something to do with them, because of them that your relationship didn't make it, and it's a difficult path to be able to see where it is that you went wrong or that they went wrong, leading them to be in a new relationship and yet reaching back out. There's so many different components that we have to put together and to be able to effectively, get a better gist as to what's really going on here. And, as you're questioning yourself over and over, what do you think and this and that, and asking all your friends and what have you, maybe this is the perfect moment to think about perhaps having a one-on-one session, because you don't have to do these things by yourself, whether with me or with so many other coaches out there. I mean, we live in a world that there's so many opportunities, but I can't say that I am here to assist you in any way that I possibly can. See, when booking a private session, it takes you from the video into the reality, and we focus deeply on your situation. We dive into your specific relationship, not all those that I'm fortunate enough to be watching at this moment. So we can uncover really why your ex may be reaching out. And with that, we create a response strategy that protects your heart while keeping the door to reconciliation wide open. You think of it as building a personalized playbook for these crucial moments, and they are crucial because it's interesting how our response and our ability to create a thread of dialogue can be that little push that they need to remember that maybe they did the wrong move by breaking up. And you demonstrate that you haven't been in a waiting room this whole entire time as well. And that's very, very important. You have to remind yourself that you need to respond wisely. It's so crucial, to keep the communication alive. But yes, you have to also allow them to see that you have a life. He needs to feel the difference of when you were in that waiting room or begging or pleading, and that you have a life. Don't tell them everything, because what you want them is to be curious so that they feel compelled to continue more. You always have to leave them wanting a little bit more from you. When they feel curiosity, they'll keep asking questions. And one of the biggest things that curiosity is brought to the surface is when you're calm. When you're calmer than expected, they start wondering, wow, what's up with that? Could it be that they just don't care? And it's so important. They start noticing the contrast. And unfortunately, usually when they're in another situation that is going down the drain for whatever reason, there's drama, there's instability. So that's why they're, moving back to you, and they're hoping that you are providing an energy, allowing them to feel grounded. And once again, it's important for me to say, am I saying go ahead and try to break up people's relationships? Absolutely not. But if it is a person that you had a relationship with and you want to rekindle with, don't shut the door. Just leave it open. Let them do the talking. You know, what you need to do is position yourself to re-experience your own attraction. You know, demonstrate through your behavior your magnetic growth. You know, even from afar, exes sense that you're not who they left behind, that you're better. And this is why they're reaching to you. They don't reach back to what made them miserable. They reach back because of that energetic flow that is reaching them, seeing that you're better. And plus that memory field, which has diffused all the negative ones. So this subtle shift often plants the first real doubts in their new relationship and the first real longing for you. And here's where it gets creative. This moment is not about chasing, but about positioning. You know, you've got to imagine you're planting a seed. And seeds don't sprout overnight. They need time, they need light, they need the right soil, water, so on and so on, so on. You know, your ex reaching out is a seed. Your confidence and elevated vibe are the sunlight and soil. And if you let curiosity and contrast grow inside them, they may begin to drift away from their new relationship, not because you pushed, but because they feel pulled towards you and your energy. Now, you know, I can go on forever on this topic because I know how emotionally loaded this can feel. But for now, let's bring this all together. And it's important because, you know, don't ask me why exes always come back, you know, and sometimes we've replaced them. We don't care. It's okay. But if you still do, if you know that there's still something there, there's unfinished business, you know, just remember this. When your ex is with someone new, but still reaches out, it's not a reason to panic. It's a reason to pause, to breathe and play wisely. You have to sort of understand their motives and avoid the traps. You respond calmly, you show growth, and you stay out of the competition. You play the long game because you see, love that returns under these conditions is not an accident. It really isn't. It's the natural result of patience. You know, when we just take a back seat and let them do whatever it is that they want, you still linger in the back of their mind. And once they see that the situations that they're in is intolerable, they start thinking that maybe they made a wrong move. Now, once again, this is a very generic video. Am I suggesting that you even consider going back with an ex? Not so fast. It might not be for you. But there are many people, trust me when I tell you, that had amazing relationships, and for whatever reason, at some point it just sort of fizzled. One of the partners decided that someone else seemed more interesting and regretted it. And once that happens, if you want to consider re-attracting your ex, you need to position yourself wisely to do so without making it look that you're weak or that, you know, you're just in that waiting room, because you're not. You've lived a full life in the interim period as well. So thank you once again for joining me today. And please do not forget to like and subscribe for more tips on personal growth, mending broken relationships, and everything in between. Until next time, I'm Coach Abby.